from the Fanshawe Advanced Ergonomic Studies program. So as a introduction, as part of the program at Fanshawe College, the students were asked to evaluate a product for its ergonomic impact. We looked at it more as a myth buster, where there are claims for the product. And today I have with me Owen and Caleb, who are going to share the results of their product evaluation of the Woodox Wood Carrier. Caleb, I'll turn it over to you to take us through the introduction of the Wood Carrier.
Okay, thank you, Allison. So as compared to a traditional firewood bag, which is pictured on the left, the Woodox sling, which is pictured on the right, is a tool designed for carrying firewood, and it's designed with a slot to insert the forearm and a strap which drapes over the shoulder and the upper body. So what is the problem? So the aim of this study was to evaluate the biomechanical effect of the Woodox sling in comparison to a traditional firewood carrier, which is known to cause strain on the body during use, and to determine the validity of the claim benefits of the Woodox. So we also conducted a literature review as part of our study, and what we found was that firewood is still used extensively around the world for heating homes. And in fact, about 2.5 million households across the US use wood as main fuel for home heating. In addition, back injuries are a substantial burden for individuals, and tasks that require heavy physical work, as well as carrying loads with one arm, can put uneven pressure on the spine and increase the risk of back injury. And now Owen will introduce our methods.
Thanks, Caleb. So we analyzed a variety of wood loading ranges and postures across both the traditional and the Woodox. The tools we used were 3D SSPP, as well as arm force field for the carry and lift for the traditional firewood bag. So to start off, we wanted to evaluate the anthropometry to ensure that it would fit a large range of the population. And we were happy to see that in both the shortest size and the longest, most stretched out size, the strap was able to comfortably fit both 5th percentile female all the way up to 95th percentile males, according to 98 CR15 database. And then we also evaluated the forearm circumference for a 95th percentile male to ensure that the largest arms would be able to fit through that sleeve. And again, we were happy to see a 37% surplus for that. The first range that we're going to look at is the low range. So this is loading firewood straight from the floor into the bag. And this was actually one of the areas where we saw the traditional firewood bag outperform the Woodox. So as you can see on the left slide there, or the left photos there, the traditional wood carrying bag had 1,323 newtons of low back compression with an 89% capable strength for the knee. And that was decreased when we went over to the Woodox firewood bag with 1,506 newtons and 72% capable strength for the knee. This was primarily due to the posture seen in our subjects, and we'll touch a little bit more on that as we go later into the slides. This was an additional lift that must take place with the traditional firewood bag that wouldn't be needed with the Woodox. So since you're loading the bag or taking the bag and putting it on the ground and then loading it, you have to pick up that bag, obviously, to carry it to your destination, which doesn't happen when you have a Woodox that's strapped around your side and already attached to your arm and is being directly loaded. So this is not a significant lift with 1,586 newtons, but at 30 pounds, it's a lift that a traditional bag that requires, but Woodox does not. In the mid-range with the traditional firewood bag, we loaded the bag from 37 centimeters, so the chair height there. With the traditional wood bag, you have to set it on the ground and open it. So every time you put a piece of wood into that bag, you're bending all the way over. And we saw a 1,298 Newton low back compression with 90% capable strength for the hip. In the mid-range for the Woodox, we saw an improvement in all of these areas, compression, strength for the hip, as well as when we saw the increase in weight as well. So we had 15 pounds and 30 pounds as our two metrics that we used for the weight. And across both of those loads, we saw improvements with the Woodox in the mid-range. In the high range with the traditional, this is actually where the traditional wood fire bag performed the worst due to the fact that you have to hold the wood bag in one arm while reaching overhead with the other arm to grab the wood. It leaves the entire load of the wood on that one arm holding the bag. So you can see that when we have 30 pounds in the left hand, it dropped our percent capable strength for the shoulder to 5% in a 5th percentile female with a back compression of 1,306 newtons. With the high range in the Woodox, the external load on the right shoulder being significantly reduced because of the fact that the wood is strapped across the chest and not all held on one arm. We saw that percent capable shoulder strength increased to 99% with low back compression only reaching 1,099 newtons. The traditional bag carry was also another area where we saw the traditional firewood bag lacking in compared to the Woodox. We used an arm force field to evaluate the strength and maximal acceptable force to be carried by the single arm, which was 19 pounds was found to be the max. Whereas when we were doing our evaluations with the 30 and 15 pounds, obviously 30 pounds exceeds that 19-pound limit to be found by arm force field. The Woodox carry was also an area where this reduction was seen the most. With only 655 newtons at 30 pounds for back compression, that was a 53% reduction in low back compression versus the standard wood bag. And again, this was due to the sling nature distributing the load across the body as opposed to the isometric loading of the traditional wood bag. So I'll pass this off to Allison, and she'll take you through a summary of the key findings and wrap this up.
Great, thanks, Owen and Caleb. So as you can see, the biomechanical approach that the students took here was to look at the methods that would be used, the steps to lift and carry using a traditional firewood bag versus the Woodox bag. And what we found was that the Woodox, due to its anthropometry, fits all, has lots of adjustability. And the only real limiting one was in that lower range if you had your wood on the ground and having to pick that up. But in the other ranges, the mid-range and the upper, the Woodox bag performed much better with 53% less compression, particularly during the carry. And what that really means for the customer is that you can actually carry about double the weight to get the same spinal compression. Now, obviously, you want to keep that spinal compression below a value, but we found even at the 30 pound, you can do that, which we found to be a kind of an average weight that someone might be lifting for their wood. So overall, we are very impressed with the Woodox, and the only kind of recommendation is that we found the highest stress in the lower level, and so it's probably a good idea to stock your wood, keep your wood pile stocked so that your level that you'll be lifting the wood from is above knee height. And then if you do have to go down to the lower ground, maybe to go on to one knee versus the squat. And I think the biggest endorsement that I have is that I personally use the Woodox and find it much easier to carry wood to my new sauna. And overall, the Woodox is a good product to reduce ergonomic stressors. Thank you for listening to our presentation today, and thanks to the students at the Fanshawe Advanced Ergonomic Studies program for sharing their product evaluation of the Woodox sling.